Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, had a lot of really fun and interesting ideas for how to end off the trilogy, with Return of the Jedi in fact being one of the most impactful films in all of the Skywalker saga. Return of the Jedi finally showed us the destruction of the Emperor and the return of Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, to the light side of the Force. But interestingly enough, it was not always set to be this way, as George Lucas had another idea how to cap off his original trilogy, an idea far darker than what we ultimately got. It's also been well known that the original title for Star Wars Episode 6 was not always Return of the Jedi, rather Revenge of the Jedi, but that the title was ultimately scrapped as a Jedi should never take revenge, and the title was saved later on for Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. But the title Revenge of the Jedi has a lot of resonance with the original ending that George Lucas had in mind, a very important ending for characters like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader specifically. And today we are going to break down and talk about that original ending for Return of the Jedi. A lot of the film was going to play out the same, except for Han Solo would have died in the first act of the movie after being rescued by Luke and Leia. This would sort of serve as Luke Skywalker's first step towards the dark side of the Force, as the death of his best friend would anger him a great deal. The movie would be much darker in tone than what we ultimately got. There wouldn't be any dancing Ewoks anywhere to be found, and the story would be really personal. It would almost be a sort of deconstruction of the character of Luke Skywalker. We would encounter a very powerful and noble Luke Skywalker at the beginning of the film, but over the course of Return of the Jedi, that character was going to be brought down, until of course we reached our shocking finale. Apparently this was all going to lead to a very similar culmination that we got in Return of the Jedi, with Luke Skywalker confronting both Vader and the Emperor aboard the second Death Star. It would largely play out the same, with Darth Vader eventually turning on the Emperor and throwing him down the reactor shaft, killing him. It was again where Luke Skywalker was going to get to have a very intimate moment with his dying father. But something would be very different from what we ultimately got. There would be something very different about this Luke, and as Darth Vader passed away, Luke Skywalker would show very little emotion. Slowly, the Jedi would then take the mask of Darth Vader and place it over his own head, stating that now he was Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, and he would destroy the rebels personally and become the new Emperor. There were tons of different alternate endings for Return of the Jedi, with this being one of them, with George Lucas opting to take it in a more dark direction. This was likely going to be set up for another trilogy that George Lucas was working on. George Lucas, though, famously has alternate takes for a ton of the characters, from Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke Skywalker to Darth Vader. In fact, at one point in time during George Lucas's original draft, Luke Skywalker was a much older war veteran and not actually the son of Darth Vader. So again, I want to make it clear that this is just one of multiple endings that George Lucas had for Return of the Jedi. One where again Luke Skywalker would embrace the dark side of the Force and his darker nature, becoming another Darth Vader, and eventually destroying the Rebel Alliance and becoming a brand new Emperor. In a sense, going through the duel with the hopes of both of the other Darksiders, Sidious and Vader, being killed off, so that Luke could pick up the pieces of the Empire and rule over it, similar to another canon character like Snoke. But what are your guys' thoughts on this alternate take on the Star Wars timeline, where again in George Lucas's version, Luke Skywalker was going to turn to the dark side of the Force after the death of both Vader and Sidious, and then was going to destroy the Rebel Alliance and start over with a new empire, led only by Skywalker? I'm really interested to hear if you guys have heard of this story before, and what your thoughts would be if it actually happened. Honestly, I don't think the story would have been good enough if Luke Skywalker actually turned to the dark side of the Force at the end of it. I think it would have been exceptionally unfulfilling, and George Lucas also knows this, which it's why the ending we didn't ultimately get. Anyway, my friends, I want to hear your thoughts on this in the comments down below. And out of all of the alternate versions of Star Wars that we've explored, which one is your favorite? Thank you guys as always so much for watching. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.